Well, welcome to another edition of the Digicel Sports Show right here on Islandstats. I'm your host, Earl Baston, and joining me yet again is co-host Jason Juggler J. Ford. Well, Jay, it's been an interesting few days of sports in Bermuda, outside of Bermuda, but cricket. We have the national cricket team about to be announced, or hopefully being announced very soon. The team had to be ratified and sent in, but some news came out yesterday. Coach giving the media some information about a former player who's come back to get in the team. But what's really missing is what I would consider the truth, and that being the fact that a Bermuda-born player, they have to prove he's Bermudian to the ICC in order to be allowed to play, and obviously they've run out of time. Your thoughts on that?
Well, it stinks, and that's putting it bluntly. It stinks. I mean, it almost feels like the Obama situation, realistically. But having to wait this long, knowing that this tournament's coming up, and obviously we have a small selection of players, unlike many other countries. I'm pretty sure these names, somebody's dropped the ball, and I don't want to say who's dropped the ball because we don't have all the facts. So I'm just going to say basically somebody has dropped the ball. And we've got to bring, basically, he's been a retired player who came back and played commercial division, and he's a great friend of mine. Not to say he can't do the job, but that is not the issue. The issue is what's been at hand. Why the players who have been training, the players who have been on the last tour, the practice tour, why they're not eligible.
And that's just the thing. How could one go on a training course or a training camp and then we find out ineligible because of some other rules? And many people that look at Islandstats would see over the course of the period of years that I've been constantly writing about the fact that we play against teams who are questionable about their eligibility. And here we are faced with that. And again, you said it, we've dropped the ball.
Well, it's amazing because speaking with players over the years, speaking with national coaches over the years, we're probably one of the only teams left in the world that actually have natural-born players playing for our national squad. Not to say others don't have any national-born players, but 99% of our team is national-born players. So every team we go up against is about 90% they're born somewhere else. So it's funny how we have to prove that our players was born on the island. It stinks.
Well, we'll be back after this brief message from our sponsor.
It can be difficult choosing the right amount of data to fit your life. With Data Test Drive from Digicel, you can. Take us for a spin with any postpaid smartphone plan, and we'll give you all you can use data for the first 3 months of your agreement. When you come to the end of your 3 months, we'll let you know if you need more data on your plan and give you the option to increase your data allowance. Plus, our postpaid plans now include unlimited international SMS and increased international long-distance minutes. Digicel. Be extraordinary.
Well, Jay, come on Sunday. We have several of our best-minded coaches heading off to Scotland for their UEFA B license final exam. What do you think this does for the game in Bermuda to have these guys accomplish a B license for UEFA?
Well, first things first, I think, as a coach, you're always willing to learn. And I think that's most important. This is a game that you're always going to be a student of. And when you see that coming from the top, it's a lot easier getting the message to the youngsters, to the grassroots. Because if you could show the grassroots coaches or even the parents or even the players themselves that you're still willing to go and learn, that bodes well from Bermuda. Hopefully you want these guys ace those tests and come back and contribute to either club or the national team. And you talked about it, our great footballer minds that we have here. So they've been doing this over a period of time already. So it bodes well for us, not only in the local scene, but also the national team, because we're talking about some of these coaches are in the national program, the national academy, and just hopefully we can get this one philosophy that works for us. I think over the years we've had so many different philosophies, that when we get to see them on the national stages, we're almost asking ourselves, okay, what are we doing with this? But I think over the last few years, we're starting to paint a picture. What is Bermuda's style? And this, when you have the information, see these courses, that gives us the information to build what we want to build and custom to us. So hopefully all the guys come back with their license.
Well, let's find out who is heading off to Scotland on Sunday night. The coaches heading over to Scotland include Denver Seymour Jr., DeVar Boyles, Cal Blankendow, Troy Lewis, Aaron Denkins, Conno Smith, Don Vickers, Dennis Brown, Scott Morton, Mark Wade, Robert Bean, Richard Todd, David Martin, Mick Ward, Sergio Gota, Corey Hill, and Derek Stapley. Well, Jay, it was a bad night for Bermuda and West Ham as Nathan Trott was injured in under-19 training. Looking forward to play against Bulgaria and Croatia, but it's been sent back to West Ham. Later Tuesday night, Jair Parfitt-Williams and West Ham's development team went down 3-0, and we have Roger Lee now registered to play, hopefully this weekend, with Corby Town. Let's actually listen to the report on all three and how they're making out. Firstly, Nathan Trott was sent home from the England under-19 squad, who are preparing for upcoming games against Croatia and Bulgaria with a thumb injury. Trott picked up the injury and was advised to go back to West Ham for treatment and rest. Later in the day, Jair Parfitt-Williams came on for West Ham's Premier League 2 team as they went down 3-0 to the Wycombe Wonders. Meanwhile, Corby Town manager Tommy Wright has bolstered his squad ahead of this weekend's trip to Warrington Town with the addition of Roger Lee. Lee is a strong and experienced midfielder who counts Eccleston, Stamford, Western-super-Mare, and Rugby Town amongst his former clubs, including Somerset Eagles. The Bermuda international started his career in Bermuda at Eagles. He went on to represent the Indianapolis Greyhounds in the United States of America while studying in the University of Indianapolis. Well, yesterday, the Bermuda Football Association held the FA Cup draw. Just give us a bit of what you think the FA Cup does for teams in Bermuda before we actually get to see the draw.
Well, this is one of the only competitions where we have the lower leagues join the upper leagues in a competition. And you always get that Cinderella story. We've seen that throughout the years where a commercial division team will hold a premier team to a draw, maybe to a replay, and we seem to get these replays every year. But in saying that, they might be playing in a crowd that they've never seen, because on a Saturday afternoon playing commercial division, it's probably just you and your teammates. Well, the FA Cup, if you make it up here on the carpet, as we call up here at National Stadium, you might be up here 2,000 people. So all in all, for a player itself, I mean, you're thriving for that. You want that challenge. Now, on the other foot, if you're the Premier Division team, and I can go back a few years ago when Hamilton Parish made a good run, taking on some big boys and upsetting them. You know, if you're a Premier Division team, you do not want to be beaten by a minnow. So hopefully we get to see a Cinderella story for us, because the media, we love to see these things happen. We love to see the upsets, but we also want to see a great competition.
Well, let's get the FA Cup draw.
Good afternoon. Thanks for coming. We are here to do the FA Cup, FA Challenge Cup preliminary round draw. In this round, we will see 10 teams entered, and of that, 2 teams will receive a bye, and so the 4 winners and the 2 teams that receive a bye will go through to form a round of 16 in the next round when the Premier Division teams enter the competition. So in this round, we have 9 First Division teams and 1 Corona team, the Corona team being Butterfield and Ballas. The First Division teams are BAA, Hamilton Parish, Paget, Southampton Rangers, St. David's, St. George's, Wolves, Crossroads, and Young Men Social Club. These matches will be held on Sunday, October the 16th. So there you two got. We have Wolves, St. David's, Southampton Rangers, Hamilton Parish, St. George's, Paget, BAA, Young Men Social Club, Crossroads Warriors, Butterfield and Ballas. So the way we will choose the two teams for the bye will be basically the last two teams remaining in the cup. First team out will be Edinburgh. Hamilton Parish, versus Wolves. Southampton Rangers. Butterfield and Ballas. St. George's. Paget. Crossroads. St. David's. So the two teams receiving a bye, Young Men Social Club and BAA.
Jay, we have two outstanding middle distance runners plying their trade in colleges and universities in the U.S., Trey Simons and Dej Miners. Both of them athletes of the week for their respective divisions. You've seen them and heard their names throughout the years. Middle distance running, Bermuda seems to always be in that field of producing middle distance. You were here when the Bermuda National Athletic Association held their area permit meet last year. We got to see some middle distance runners. Your thoughts on the sport and the fact that Bermuda has been known for that?
Well, once again, this is what this show does for the sport, is the exposure. Athlete, especially in athletics, a lot of times it's an individual sport. So for athlete, we don't get to see them train. We don't get to see them sweat. We don't get to see them, tired or whatever. But this, when we have these meets that's been covered by the media, we get to see all that hard work, what they're put into, and see it on the track or see it on the course. And that's what I enjoy as a fan, as a Bermudian. That's what I enjoy. I love to see the hard work somebody puts in, because we could say, okay, especially with running, it's all about time. So I know that he did it at this time. 6 months later, he's doing it at this time. We could follow his time, so we could follow his progression, or we could see, okay, he's had an injury. Let's see how he comes back from the injury. And as an athlete, you're always looking to progress. So when you have these meets, wherever it may be, whether it's local and especially in the international scene, you're always looking for that personal best. And I think once, no matter who wins or comes whatever last, you reach the personal best, you've achieved your goal for that day.
Well, let's see how those two athletes made out to become athletes of the week. Trey Simons has recorded yet another win, this time breaking the tape during the Great American Cross Country Festival HBCU Challenge. Representing Morehouse College in the NCAA Division II Men's 8K run, Simons clocked a time of 24:47.2. He finished 51 seconds ahead of the second-place finisher, Desi Dalma, from Benedict, who clocked 25:38. Morehouse won the team title as well with a total time of 2 hours, 17 minutes, and 38 seconds. Meanwhile, senior Dage Miners of the Franklin Pierce University men's cross-country team has been named Northeastern 10 Conference Athlete of the Week, as announced by the conference office. Franklin Pierce University were in action at the Harry F. Anderson Invitational, hosted by Roberts Wesleyan College. Miners ran the 8K in a time of 25:36.2 to finish second.
Why choose Digicel Prepaid? Well, you get free social media usage, which means you can use Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and WhatsApp for free without it affecting your data allowance. And for all your other online activity, we have the cheapest prepaid data in Bermuda. Digicel, best choice for prepaid.
Patrick Nisbet, no stranger to Bermuda's horse jumping scene, is in action in Slovakia. Let's get a report on how he's making out. Patrick Nisbet continued competing in the Samoan Autumn Classic Equestrian Festival 2016 in Slovakia. On day 2, Nisbet took to the ring in 3 classes. During the 1.30 meter bronze torque against the clock class, Nisbet and Balaz finished 39th, clocking a time of 77.64, but they had 5 penalty full points. Nisbet and Farah Van Kashlap finished 33rd in the 1.40 meter Silver Tour second class qualifier. They clocked a time of 64.44 and had 4 penalty full points. In the 1.45 meter Gold Tour second qualifier class, Nisbet and Quick Z finished 4th, clocking a clear round time of 72.36. On day 3, Nisbet took to the ring in 2 classes. During the 1.45 meter Silver Tour final class, Nisbet and Farah Van Kashlap finished 19th. They clocked a time of 73.14 and had a total of 8 penalty full points. Nisbet and Balaz finished 16th, clocking a time of 73.28, but they also had 8 penalty full points, and that was competing during the 1.40 meter last chance class. Well, welcome to the Bermuda School Sports Federation edition of the Digicel Sports Show. I'm here joined by Arnold Manders to my right and Manny Ferreira to my left, 2 gentlemen from the Bermuda School Sports Federation. Now let's start off with Mr. Manders. Mr. Manders, your profile or your responsibility for school sports takes us to where?
I'm responsible for the curriculum and the PE teachers and professional development. My job title is the curriculum officer for PE and health.
Recently, the Premier announced a sort of Get Fit program for our youngsters. And we had talked towards the end of last school term about this coming on board. How much work has gone into it to make it to what it is today?
It's been quite a bit of work. Marie Beach and I, who's the other coach here, we've been meeting for at least 2 years now, and it's finally come to fruition. It's a joint venture between the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Education. With Bermuda being the most overweight and obese country in the world, we're looking at trying to improve the fitness of our youngsters, because that's where it starts.
Now, I know it was done at Dalwood Middle School, introducing the program, but how significant is it that we get the parents on board for such a program, because they're the ones out buying the food, they're the ones that are providing the resources for our kids to be healthy throughout the day?
Well, if you realize that saying, it takes a village to raise a child, well, we're looking at the parents, the PE teachers themselves, the school, and the broader community. We have BF&M on board, Argus on board, and we're looking forward to starting the PYFP.
And what would that be?
Well, what we're looking for is to get kids to be more active. So we'll be developing a site right now. It's called Step It Up Bermuda, and the kids will be able to record their minutes. The World Health Organization suggests that kids should have 60 minutes of physical activity every day. We know that in the schools we don't have that. Some middle schools only have 1 PE lesson in a week. Some kids don't have any activity in a week. So we're just trying to promote physical activity. We will be visiting schools and promoting PYFP. There are a lot of awards that will be put into the program as far as schools with the most minutes students with the most minutes. We're still working on types of prizes that we're going to give out, but we're just trying to promote physical activity, and hopefully if we can help the students to understand about physical activity and nutrition as well, that we'll have a healthier population.
Now that entails a lot of these kids doing a lot of stuff on their free time. And I say free time meaning lunchtime, recesses, because as you said, we don't have a lot of time for physical education in schools as we used to. So how do you get buy-in when some kids will say, you know what, I'm not doing that on my free time, we should be doing it during school time?
Well, we just have to show the importance of being physically fit and eating properly. We're trying to promote at the ministry that we get a few more PE lessons in, at least 2 or 3, so then they only have to find another 2 or 3 days to do activities. And the main thing is if they're playing soccer, if they're doing gymnastics, or they're doing whatever type of sport, that site will have every sporting body on it, what programs they run, how much it costs, if it's a course. So we're just trying to promote physical activity, and hopefully the parents and the schools can just assist in trying to help our young children in the government system. Actually, we're trying to get the private schools involved in the program now as well.
Now, Manny, that brings me to you, coordinator for the Bermuda School Sports Federation. Your job is to put on or host the major competitions that sees all the schools take part. You have a schedule out every year on what's coming down the pipeline, but how difficult is it to get all those resources together and it sort of tie into what the Premier and Mr. Manders and Marie Beach are trying to implement for healthier students?
Well, all of our events are open to all the kids on the island. We try our best to incorporate as many kids as possible. But, obviously resources are an issue. And so each school is only allowed to enter so many athletes per event. So that's a challenge. But, all of these events and stuff, they go towards the programs that Honor we're talking about. And so, again, the challenge is there with resources. We operate on a very tight budget. So it becomes a bit of a struggle to tie everything into for a full school year under the budget which we currently have.
Now, as we know, school's been in since early September. First order of business is obviously the six-a-side tournament that you guys have zoned. This year, where will the zones take part, and what schools, if not all, have said they'll participate?
Well, in the primary school, we have all of the schools we participate in the zones. The zone tournaments are hosted at different venues. The West zones will all be hosted at West End Primary. The West Central zones will be hosted at Saltus. And the East and East Central zones will be doing up Shelley Bay next week. And that's for the primary school. Middle schools, it's a one-day tournament, so they all come together. And that will be at Shelley Bay. And this year, we're going to try something different with the senior school. Instead of six-a-side tournament, we're going to run a series of futsal tournaments in November. And I think it's just something different, something exciting for the boys and girls, because we're doing boys and girls. Something different, and I think they're going to be excited about it.
Now, what's some of the new sports not new sports to Bermuda, but new sports to the Bermuda School Sports Federation have been introduced over, say, the last 5 years?
We've been working with Smash, and we've had table tennis for the last few years. Tennis, again, we've been working with the organizations, and specifically in the primary school, we've been having more tennis programs, and they're actually assisting and getting into schools and helping out with the training. Really, in the last few years, that's probably it. We do have a wide range of sports that we offer. I did a little comparison a couple of years ago compared to what they do in Jamaica and some of the U.S. states and Canadian provinces, and we actually offer more inter-school sports programs than most other regions in North America. So, to add more, it would be a little tough, especially, again, considering, budgetary limitations that we have. But if something new and exciting comes up, we're always welcome to add it to the calendar. But for now, this year, there's nothing that we're going to add this year.
Last year, we saw the Bermuda School Sports Federation Cup finals here at the National Sports Center. They were shown throughout the Caribbean. Can we see something of that nature again? And is there any thought on adding maybe another sport to it?
Well, for the time being, I was just waiting for the newly appointed BFA president, because we did it in conjunction with the BFA. A lot of the contact was made with the BFA and the BSSF to SportsMax. So now that we have a new president, Mark Wade, I look forward to talking to him and seeing if we could reach out and see if we could do the same thing this year. But again, I must stress, it comes down to dollars and cents, and it did cost quite a bit. So we'll just have to see if it's feasible to do it again. We hope it could be, but time will tell.
We are often faced with the challenges of physically getting people to move around. I know that over the years, some schools have had where they had people come in early in the morning and do walking. You get the popsicle sticks and all that. It seems to go for a little bit and then die off. Is that because the people that are driving it move schools, or is it a school-generated type event?
Well, it's basically a school-generated event. It all depends on how highly that principal thinks about physical activity and PE. But the ministry's mandate since they took over, because of Bermuda's dilemma, has mandated that we improve the fitness of the students and to promote more physical activity. So each school now has to put in the school improvement plan how they're going to improve their kids' fitness levels, because we mandated that they get a pre-test in by October 31st, and then that's recorded into our fitnessgram and now our new IHT spirit system, and then they'll set the SMART goals on how they're going to improve, and then they test it again by the end of May 31st to see if there's any improvement been made.
Okay, what's the benefit, or if there's no improvement, what are the plans put in place to see that the message gets through to some of the people that are not putting in that extra effort?
Well, what's happening is that most of the students last year improved. Some were stayed at the same, and some didn't improve. But they need to reassess their goals. With us now getting the funding for the Premier's Youth Fitness Program, in that budget is a fitness instructor, which will be responsible to going in and assisting teachers with the testing, and also taking the risk groups to assist them in improving, the physical fitness and eating habits.
We see that, so it's one person for the entire island?
One person for the entire island. Like many say, budgetary constraints. It took us a long time to even get the funding, but at least the government has realized that this is a very important part of Bermuda, as Bermuda being the most overweight and obese country in the world, and they're trying to make it better. And the only way you can do that is getting into the schools who have them most of the day and can try to make changes with the help of the parents and the broader community.
Manny, over the years, you've been putting on a lot of these events, various events. How have you seen the development of our young talent? Because of late, you guys have been taking players away, athletes away, as part of the BSSF, looking to help college prospects. How have you seen that develop over the course of the years?
Well, initially we took a team, I'm going to guess maybe 6 years ago, to North Carolina for the Castle Showcase. I want to say about 8 or 9 of those guys ended up playing in college, so they got noticed there. Again, it's tough to get teams together to take overseas. So what we do now, we try our best to, and you help out with this, we try our best to film our games and send it overseas to or put it online so the coaches have the ability to watch the games and see what our players can do. And again, throughout the years, a handful of guys have been noticed through these showcases or all-star matches and have received opportunities overseas. But what we're starting to see is the talent pool. They're starting to leave Bermuda at a younger age now. So, we got the boys and girls leaving here now at 13, 14 years old to attend various academies or prep schools, and they're flourishing. They're doing really well. A lot are moving on to Division I schools. So it's encouraging to see that we have a lot of talent here in Bermuda. But unfortunately for us in the programs, they're not here playing. So, but obviously, they're receiving wonderful opportunities. So we're glad to see that, they're there. And again, they're moving on to big things in Division I and some into professional ranks. So.
What is next on the schedule for the Bermuda School Sports Federation?
Well, we have swimming first. Primary school swimming will be here on Friday. And then next Thursday, we join the middle school and senior school meets together. So, and netball started now, so they're having their zones as well. So in November, we'll have the netball competitions. And volleyball league will be starting in the next few weeks, and those tournaments towards the end of term as well. So basically in the first term, it's, volleyball, football, netball.
Well, before we go, Manny, the Bermuda School Sports Federation have an announcement coming out very shortly. Tell us a little bit about what one can expect.
Well, we're very excited to announce that finally we'll have our website up and running. It's been a while. We've been working on it, and it's finally ready. It'll be along a lot of the same lines as you do with your website, with a lot of pictures, galleries, and a lot of scores, results. You've been a great advocate of our programs throughout the years, so we thank you for that. And of course, we'll continue to be partners in delivering our message. But we finally have our own space to do it, and we're excited about it. We'll have Facebook and Instagram as well, so we'll do some aggressive social media campaigning. But it's exciting. It's going to take some work, but hopefully it'll be released in the next few weeks, and the public will support us and make it a successful and well-visited site. Thank you.
All right. Well, there you have it. Arnold Mendes, Manny Ferreira from the Bermuda School Sports Federation.
It can be difficult choosing the right amount of data to fit your life. With Data Test Drive from Digicel, you can. Take us for a spin with any postpaid smartphone plan, and we'll give you all you can use data for the first 3 months of your agreement. When you come to the end of your 3 months, we'll let you know if you need more data on your plan and give you the option to increase your data allowance. Plus, our postpaid plans now include unlimited international SMS and increased international long distance minutes. Digicel. Be extraordinary.
Well, welcome to this edition of the Digicel Sports Show right here on Islandstats. Joining me today is the Director of Youth and Sport, Mr. Norbert Simons. We're going to be discussing our recent conclusion of the Olympics and the Paralympics. Bermuda had 10 athletes compete in the combined events. So let's hear from Mr. Simons. Well, good afternoon, Mr. Simons. Bermuda had those 10 athletes compete on the world stage, global stage, the Olympics and Paralympics. Your thoughts on the stage of such a global event every 4 years?
Well, good afternoon. First of all, the Olympics is the biggest event, sporting spectacle that the world has. And for us to have 10 athletes from such a small jurisdiction competing at these games is a phenomenal feat in itself.
Now let's break it down. Let's go by athlete. And of course, in the Olympics we had 8, in the Paralympics we had 2. We'll start off with the Olympics because that was the first event. Shelley Pearson, she made it through to the C final after making it out of her first round. Your thoughts on her first appearance at an Olympic festival?
Well, to me, that was a really great performance when you consider that she was rowing in a team sport with her school in London, in England, to decide less than 2 years out to try and qualify in the in the single rowing program. She did extremely well to make it to the semifinals, and she didn't miss it by much in the semifinal proper. It is a phenomenal accomplishment. So it augurs well for her for 2020.
Indeed, and she said she was looking forward to 2020 as well. She went back, she had a few exams to do, and then it's get on to what we consider in Bermuda a normal life, not a professional life of sport, but a normal life of getting a job and so forth. But we still struggle in between, and we'll get to that later on. Then we had Rebecca Heiliger, swimming.
Yeah, her first Olympics again. I think that, I think that she did well, but one must take into consideration, I know you say you want to talk about it later, but it's the level of competition that our athletes have to be exposed to. You understand that in Bermuda, the level of competition is not what it can be. There's a degree of familiarity, so you're never really pressed physically or mentally. And the mental component is just as important as the physical component when it comes to competing in major events.
Then we had Julian Fletcher, another swimmer, competed in the 50-meter breaststroke. He's been at the Pan American Games. He was at the CAC Games. For his first time qualifying in the B standard for the Olympics. I know that the swimming coach has said, after being at the Olympics this time, we're going to have to raise the standard. But Julian's performance throughout.
Well, Earl, when you talk about all of those other festivals are major and they're important, but the Olympics is the Gold Cup of every sport, especially in swimming. And again, it's a learning experience, and I'm hoping that all of our athletes have learned something and understand what it takes to get to the very next level. And even as a country, we need to understand that while we do well in such a small pool, there's a greater need and emphasis on performance and everything else in order to make it at the big leagues.
Let's move on to the track. Trey Houston, 200 meters. He was in heat 6 or heat 7. Remarkable performance. Got out of the blocks well, got strong, but in the end started to fade. But for his first one, you've known Trey for quite some time. You've seen him grow on the track right here at the National Sports Center. But what do you think about his performance overall?
Trey, to be honest, Trey is a good 200-meter runner, but I think his forte is the 400. Okay, and I think first of all we got to get Trey convinced that to not be afraid of the 400 because he has the speed for the 2. But I think that speed that he has for the 2 will augur him well and do well for him in the 400 meters. For his 200-meter performance at the Olympics, it was a good performance. But I think that there are certain phases of it that needs to be worked on for him to get from 20.8 down to 20 flat. And it's just a little mechanical adjustment to get him to where he needs to be. But he has all the tools and the strength, and he has the heart. That's important.
Now, for those that don't know, Mr. Simons' background is 400, a specialty. Track and field was one of his loves. It still is one of his loves. He spends time coaching and so forth. So, speaking from experience of 400.
Yeah, and I just watch him. I think that the 400, and if he ran a few more 400s, because I think he's more 2.4 than 1.2, in the sense that if he ran more 400s, then he would be stronger in the 2. And that's just from a coaching point of view. But I think that 400 meters is probably the most difficult event, and and there's a little bias behind it. But the 400 meters is the most difficult event on the track, as far as I'm concerned, because it's a long sprint. It's not a middle distance run. It is a sprint. And if you looked at the Olympics when the young man from South Africa ran 43 point, it tells you. Because the splits were like 20 point, and then he came back in a 21, 22 in the second half.
Tyrone Smith, long jump, didn't quite make it to the final. A bit disappointing for him and for a lot of other people, but overall, Tyrone's career and, as he says, his last Olympics.
Yes, he's had a good run, but I think that I'm not too sure if the mental aspect for Tyrone was really there. It's been a long run, and it's difficult to get up after such a long career in the sport. But he served the sport well. He's been a good ambassador for for Bermuda in track and field because he's been to all of the events. He's done extremely well in some, and this one I think that he was disappointed, and I certainly can say that I thought that he was going to be in the finals and be in the top 6. But, those are the days. Some days, like they say, some days are fishing days. Not every day is a catching day. So, it's one of those experiences, and he has a lot to offer our young people in sport and track and field, and I hope that he still stays involved.
And we'll be back after this message from our sponsor.
Why choose Digicel Prepaid? Well, you get free social media usage, which means you can use Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and WhatsApp for free without it affecting your data allowance. And for all your other online activity, we have the cheapest prepaid data in Bermuda. Digicel, best choice for prepaid.
Well, we're back with the Director of Youth and Sport, Mr. Norbert Simons. Continue on with our Olympic look back. Cece Woolman, her first Olympics, one of the youngsters in the event of sailing. She was matched up with another youngster her age, been sailing against each other for a little while, and they battled. But Cece Woolman.
I'm impressed. She's 18 years old. She was one of our previous juniors sponsorship award winners, and to qualify for the Olympics at such a young age in a tough sport, and whether we want to admit it or not, sailing it can really be tough. Not only are you battling your competition, you're battling the elements, and she did extremely well, and I think it was a good learning experience for her. I think that it was good that the Olympic Association sent her to this Olympics, but the expectation, I hope, was not on her to look to be a medalist in this one, but in the next one, after learning it and the growing and the experience of it all, that she will take that as a learning tree and move on and do well in 2020.
And then of course we had Cameron Pimentel also in sailing, and both of those two had some days of tough condition. But Cameron Pimentel, his first Olympics, and surely, as he says, not his last.
But I'm glad to hear that, because sometimes when you go into a big arena like that, you can be discouraged, and especially if you don't, you don't think that you performed as well as others in the world. But they went on their own. They didn't go with a team of people and a team of sailors that could give them some guidance and advice. And so this is, again, we have to be really proud and take our hats off to what he's accomplished, along with Cecilia and the other Olympians that we've talked about so far, because a lot of times when you're on your own, it makes it even that much more difficult. So, but they've done extremely well, and I would hope that we would grow the sport to the point where we have more, not just have the one sailor or two sailors going, that we'll have at least 5, 6, 7, and 8.
And then our final competitor at the Olympics was Flora Duffy. When we could all reminisce, 2008, I did not finish. 2012, it was a crash. 2016, 8th place.
Yes, and I know that we thought that she was going to do better, but let's look at the progress as she laid it out. She has grown steadily. Again, it's another sport that if it was other people that were in our team that could have drafted her especially during the cycle phase, then where she was out front trying to take it all on her own by herself. When other countries had team members who can just do things to block her or whatever the case may be, and draft who they thought would be the winner. She's done extremely well, and I think that, again, I hope that she doesn't be discouraged by this, because at least a couple of weeks later she came back and became the world champion. So all of it's on the favors for her, and again, that's another sport that we should look to develop so that we can have a team effort to ensure that the most outstanding one in the team has a better chance of being successful.
And then we had the two Paralympians. Jessica Lewis competed in the 1, the 4, and the 800. And our other Paralympian, Uche De Silva Andrade, competed in the bocce. Now, those two, obviously we all know about Jessica, but Uche, her first Olympics, a lot of nerves out there. But what can you say about a youngster like that and on a big stage such as that?
sports, and I think that we take it for granted sometimes when we watch it locally in Bermuda, right? It takes a lot of intestinal fortitude to go, one, into a different country, two, to be around people that you don't know and probably don't even speak the language. And for her to go out there in our very first major competition, she did extremely well. And she needs to be lauded for it. And I think that sometimes, because we have a tendency sometimes to think that because people don't win that they have, that they don't need the support, but she, along with Jessica, need all the support they can get.
And then we'll finish up with Jessica, who started with her first event, the first competition day, and then competed on the final competition day of the Paralympics. But overall, Jessica made it to the 100-meter final. She was an outside chance for the 400, didn't make it. Outside chance for the 800, didn't make it. But overall, you've kept up abreast with how Jessica's been doing over the years. But to get to her second Olympics, make that final, big improvement, because her mom even said to me at one point when they done the I think 800 4 years ago, when they came around the second time, she was the only one on the track. This time she wasn't, which is a big achievement.
Yes, it is. And also, Earl, I just want to reflect on the 100 that she did. It was a luck of the draw for me. I think that if she had not been in the very first heat, I think she would have done even better. Again, being in the first heat, nerves and not knowing the lay of the land. And if you're not being experienced enough to be in that situation, it'll play on your psyche. But I think that for Jessica, she has shown us that she is a true competitor, and she has not only represented herself well, but she's done the country extremely proud.
Now let's talk a little bit about the fact that we're challenged in the way others are not as much challenged, and that's in the pocketbook of our athletes. We have a lot of athletes who go to the Olympics and make major sacrifices as with giving up full-time jobs or trying to balance jobs and training. I know as the director you would always want to do more, but how frustrating is it for you to sit in the chair and hear the cries of our athletes?
Well, it is frustrating now, not only just being a director of sport, but one, being involved in sport, and as you stated earlier, I'm still coaching. I have to share this with you. During the Olympic, my athletes that I coach, we had, they have a little chat group, and one of the questions they asked, can you go overseas to get training, and do you have to come back and represent Bermuda? You see, and I think the discouragement comes because they feel like our athletes, and I know they're not alone. I know they're only 14 to 16 years old, but there's a feeling that you don't feel like the country is behind you when you go out and do these things. And for me, I think that the first thing that we have to do is to let our athletes know that we support them through the good times and through the bad times. I think that one of what we're guilty of on many occasions, that we only want to come to the party when they look like they're going to win. But our athletes, coming from a small jurisdiction, and we have to understand this is a small jurisdiction. It's not even a hamlet in England. When you think that our population is 65,000, but the indigenous population is around 30,000 people that you could choose from to represent you at the Olympics, then our kids and our athletes have done extremely well. But they need to feel that they have the support, and the support doesn't always have to be financial. You see, and the financial part is important, but the fact that to know that when I step on the track, that I know that it's not just my mother and my family that's supporting me, that I know that everybody supports me in the country, it does a lot for the psyche of our athletes, and I think that's really important.
From your chair, you can also reflect on the time when you were an athlete, coming through the system with the likes of Cal Dill and others, Dennis Trott, but Coach Clive Long. But how has things changed over the years from when you guys were coming along, making your way up to the grassy track to train, to where it is now? We have a purpose-built track, we have a pool, there's so much more out there now.
Well, that's it, you have much more. I think that for us, when we were coming along, you only had one TV. with 2 TV stations that usually went off at midnight, and was black and white. And you knew that for us, when we were competing, it was like a family, it was like a social event for us. And the family support was there, the friends support was there, and the friendship that was built as a result of track and field was definitely there. We didn't have the facilities that our athletes have today. And sometimes we lament when I'm down there training and say to those guys, we were running 10.5 on grass, Cal was running 10.3 on grass, and you guys can't even break 10.7 or 10.8. And so the opportunities are there, but that's neither here nor there. But I think that what's happened is that there are a lot of distractions in this country, and not only in this country, because every jurisdiction around the world is facing the same thing. There's a lot of distractions, and because we've become accustomed to getting things so easy, we're not able to translate and understand that if you want to be successful, you have to work hard, and there's no substitution for hard work. Talent is one thing, but the work that's required is what's needed. And I think our athletes have the tools. There's better coaching technology that's going on, but I'm a little concerned about the mental application that has to come with it.
And that starts from young, because concentration, attitude, approach, that's all part of growing up. But as you said, there's a lot of distractions out there. So focusing in on if you're a good 100-meter runner or a good 200-meter runner, you've got all these things before you get to that track to train that could possibly jump in front of you. How do we now, I want you to put your coach's hat on, how do you keep them, the youngsters you have, focused in avoiding those distractions to get to training to accomplish what they're hoping to accomplish, and they're hoping that you can help them accomplish?
That's exactly it, Earl, because I sat down with them and said, look, what are your goals for the upcoming season? This is what your goals are, and I'm going to hold you to it. So this is what we have to do to get to these goals. It means that we can no longer train 2 days a week if you want to be competitive with the athletes in the Caribbean, especially out of Jamaica. So we have to change our mindset about training 2 days a week. We have to up it to 5 days a week. You know, there are certain things that we're going to have to do. You've given me your goals, and my job is to assist you to get those goals. All right? I don't have to do the work, but I'm going to remind you constantly. Every time you think you want to skive off, I'm going to remind you constantly. In addition, because I'm coaching young athletes, schoolwork is important. But I'm going to tell you what I like about the group that I have right now is, like I said, social media is an integral part of their lives, and I think that it can be positive and it can be negative. But they came up with the idea, and I'm going to call his name. Clavante Lodge came up with the idea. We form a chat group, and they give themselves a name, and they talk about what they want to talk about when it comes to track. They call one another to make sure you're not training. If one of them's not showing up, there's a message that goes out on WhatsApp. Where are you? We're waiting for you. And they're like, so it's using them as a peer group to really motivate one another, because at the end of the day, if you can get a group of people who got the same goals and same focus, they will police themselves. And I think that has to be really important. And when we sit down and talk, okay, you want to say that you want to go to Carifta, and as I said to one of the female athletes, the qualifying time for Carifta is 12.2. It's not good enough to say you qualified. We have to set the goal that you run 11.8, that you can be competitive. It's more important. It's important that you be competitive and just not being satisfied with qualifying, because I think that a lot of times we just get satisfied with the minimal success and not knowing that we can do even better. So it's about challenging the athlete with my group, is about challenging them to do, not just meet the minimal standard, but better than that, so that when you walk on the track, you know that if it's going to take 12 flat to get into the finals, you could do that. And if it means that it takes 11.8 or 11.7 to win the finals, then you know that you're in a position to do that. I don't want them to walk on the track and say, I just qualified, and be satisfied. I want them to walk on the track and say, I could win this. I have to, and the intestinal fortitude comes through hard work. And that's, we can train God sometimes, but you can, in the sense that if you have to make training sessions as stringent and as tough as possible and the like. But with me, I try to get them to remember what their goals are. And these are the things that we have to do. And we sit down and discuss it. I mean, I know sometimes people will say that at a 13 and 14-year-old, you shouldn't tell them what to do. But if they have made a commitment, then they should have a say or have some idea or input into how they're going to achieve this goal. So we discuss what we're going to do in training session, and I say we're going to do this, and every now and then they'll say, "Oh, Simons, can we cut it down?" I say, "Well, we could do it." But sometimes what I'll do is, for instance, if I tell I'm going to do 10 150s, my goal is that they get 6 done. I know they knew it, but then if they get to 8, and then we'll say, okay, and I'll use it as a psychological bonus. You've done extremely well for the 8, then training session is finished. Other days we have to push even harder and the like. But it's about trying to keep them motivated and keep them engaged, because there are, like you said, there are a lot of distractions, and the social media is one of the things that is the biggest distraction for our young people, because we need to understand that our kids need to feel valued. They need to feel that they're wanted and appreciated, and what the peers say about them has more influence on them than what I'll ever have to say.
Well, I want to thank Mr. Norbert Simons, the Director of Youth and Sport, for joining me here on Digicel Sports Talk. We'll be back after this message.
It can be difficult choosing the right amount of data to fit your life. With Data Test Drive from Digicel, you can. Take us for a spin with any postpaid smartphone plan, and we'll give you all you can use data for the first 3 months of your agreement. When you come to the end of your 3 months, we'll let you know if you need more data on your plan and give you the option to increase your data allowance. Plus, our postpaid plans now include unlimited international SMS and increased international long distance minutes. Digicel. Be extraordinary.
Well, that's it from here, Juggler. It's been a great show, a second show for the Digicel Sports Show. Your thoughts and wishes for this coming weekend?
Once again, please keep logging on. Give us some comments and some feedback, because we are trying to expose our athletes here on this island and worldwide. So once again, thanks a lot to Digicel, and Earl, I will see you next show.
Do enjoy your evening.